Well, hello, Grove, and all those watching on Facebook, YouTube, and such. This morning, I want to say Happy Easter. It's a bit of a different video than what I usually have done over the past few weeks. There's no editing or clipping, so you'll have to excuse the ahs, and the moments where I forget exactly what it was I was trying to say and have to collect my thoughts. That happens actually a lot. But it's a different Easter for me, not an Easter like I'm used to. Every year, it begins at the beginning of the church year, where we follow the church calendar. The beauty of that is we're supposed to be walking with Jesus throughout the year, walking with the disciples as they experience exactly what Jesus is teaching them. And we walk shoulder to shoulder through Galilee and through Nazareth and up to Jerusalem, and especially at Holy Week. And every year at Holy Week, I make a concerted effort to really feel the presence of Holy Week and what the disciples must have been feeling and thinking and experiencing during that entire time. Say, for instance, Palm Sunday, moving into the grave and mourning the crucifixion, of Good Friday, and mourning at the burial of Jesus on Holy Saturday, and then celebrating in the resurrection of Christ on Easter Sunday morning. But this year is very unique, unlike any other, and not for the reasons you would expect. You may have expected that it would have been because of I got the sun there, don't we? It may have been because of COVID-19 that this Easter is so uniquely different, but nothing could be further from the truth. You see, on Good Friday, I received news that my second father, Doug, passed away. It was somewhat expected, and it wasn't from COVID-19, but it was from another illness he had been struggling with for a little over a year. On Holy Saturday, we buried him. We mourned at the grave for our loss. But now it's Easter Sunday. And this morning, oddly, I find myself celebrating in not only the resurrection of Christ, but the promised resurrection of my second father, Doug, who will indeed rise again. It got me to thinking how much more closely I've walked the Easter road this year than I ever have in years past. And it got me thinking about a clause that's found in one of the ancient creeds of the church. The Apostles' Creed is what we normally call it. It says that Jesus descended into Hades. The third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended to the Father, and he sits now at the right hand of the Father. From there he'll come to judge the living, or the quick, and the dead. And people have always puzzled about that one clause. He descended into Hades. What do they mean? As far as I can understand, Hades was always to represent the fullness of death, all that death could be. Not necessarily a place, but more of a state, a death state. All that death could be, could mean, would ever mean. All that death could be for you and me. Jesus descended into that. And the third day, the Bible says, he rose again. And why is that so important? There are so many other very important clauses in the Apostles' Creed. Why is that one so essential to understand? Well, I would imagine the main reason why that's so important is because Jesus went into every bit of our death that we will ever experience. If it's ours, he knows it. So he knows our death fully and completely. He understands our death absolutely. He went into all of it. He experienced all of it. And then, being the very first person, he walked back out of it. He walked into death, and I've always imagined it as though there's a door he kicked wide open, and he knocked it down, therefore promising for the rest of the world that anybody who should walk his way into death will be able to find his way back out of it. I got to thinking the only way you can find your way out of death is if you walk into it with Christ. If you should walk into death without Christ, you'll never find your way back out of it. It's a very intriguing thing because we're living in a day, especially in the COVID-19 era, where everybody's so afraid to die. Now, to be sure, I'm not too happy about the idea myself. But it's inevitability, isn't it? No matter how hard you try, if you dodge this bullet, surely there's another one around the corner. And I know that seems like a grim way of looking at it, but the fact of the matter is, you can avoid all you want. Eventually, death will come calling at your door, and then what? No, there's no way around death. It's a stark reality of this life. Death is sure. I think that's what scares people the most. It's not that they will die. It's that you can't avoid it. It's the finality of it. It's that locked door, once entered in, that there's no way out. I think that's what scares us so much. We're so desperate to prevent our death during this pandemic that we've stopped living. We're so desperate to not die that we're not living either. Now, that's probably not true for everybody, so that's a sweeping statement. But then I read the Apostles' Creed, then I read the Gospel's account, then I think of my own experience and the reason I have this strange joy today, and I say to myself, I get it. It's not necessarily so, is it? Yes, we will enter death, but if you should go into death with Christ, you will walk his way in, and you will find that door, and he will lead you back out into his arms. That's Easter. Easter is not merely the death of Christ, the forgiveness of sins. It's the resurrection of the body and the freedom from all that sin has destroyed. That is why we celebrate not only in the cross, but in the empty grave. So, yes, I am broken today. I'm sad. I will be for quite some time now. That's not going to go away soon. But the sting of death, it's gone. The victory of death, it's over. Because I know that soon time will heal these wounds. One day, I will see Doug again. And Doug is with Christ. He's there with Jesus now. And that's the joy of Easter. So, for you, for anybody listening, celebrate Easter today. And you can have that joy because he is risen. He has risen indeed.